With a music career spanning for way over 40 years, Gary Numan finally makes his Glastonbury appearance. Let's talk all about that. Welcome to the channel. My name's Vaughn George. I'm an artist and artist development coach and a keyboardist for the UK band Mesh. If it's your first time here, I'd like to invite you with open arms and say if you like keyboarded musical instruments and bands related to synthesizers, pianos, and anything with a keyboard on it, then this is the channel for you, and hopefully I will earn your subscription at the end of this video. Do excuse me, I don't always sound like this. I'm suffering from a bit of phlegm in the chest and a bit of man flu. And to the brothers out there, you will know how bad man flu can hit us. Ladies, you have no idea. Just mention the name Gary Numan to a lot of people. A lot of people will say, who's that? And then there will be a lot of people saying, oh, I know the name. Gary Numan is a name that is synonymous with British culture now. You know, his name has kind of surpassed, just the music industry. There are a lot of people who know his name and ask people who were around when he first came out, people who've kind of lost touch. They will mention here in my car and our friends Electric and that. And I have always been flying the Gary Numan flag. Call me a bit of a fanboy, I guess. But seeing his first show when I came to the UK, I was born in South Africa and I moved to the UK back in 1999. And when I had the opportunity to see Gary Numan at my first show was when he did it at the Brixton Academy, and he performed from the Pure album, and that was a dream come true for me. I worked in a musical retail store at the time, and a lot of my peers were kind of taking the piss out of me, saying, oh, Gary Numan's not cool. And I did take one of my fellow colleagues from the music store in which I worked, took him along with me to the show, and he was one of the cool guys who worked there. And when we came back the next day, he vouched for me that it was a great show. But I'll do a video on that. I've mentioned this before in previous videos. So if you're new to this channel, and even if you've been here for a while, I do invite you to please do a search on my channel for the Gary Numan content. I've done loads of Gary Numan content, a wealth of content, everything from gig reviews, song reviews, analysis. I've even interviewed the great man himself, along with the great Aid Fenton, record producer. You will find a wealth of content here on my channel. Now, just on that interview series I did with Aid Fenton, if you remember that 3-part in-depth Geek Talk interview series I did. Now, in that 3-part Geek Talk in-depth interview I did with Aid Fenton, Aid told us that the legacy albums Sacrifice, Exile, and Pure were being re-recorded to be being rebuilt from the ground up and remixed and being re-released, including Jagged. Now, I've been onto this for a long time. I know since I did that story, a lot of you have been reaching out to me saying, do I know any new information? All I know for now is Gary's incredibly busy with, touring his family and all that. And then, of course, trying to get all this stuff done is probably quite difficult. But last that I heard from Aid, this was still in the pipeline and going ahead. So I will be reaching out to you again, Mr. Fenton, very soon for an update on this. So just watch this space, guys. There's some very exciting Numan news on this channel, as always. So on to Glastonbury. I was delighted to learn the news that Gary was playing at Glastonbury. I think a lot of you will agree it's about time. Once again, Gary Numan, one of Britain's best kept secrets in the music industry. There are not many artists of his age and, that started when he did, that are as high as he did. Without mentioning any names, there are artists who started back when Gary did, like in the early 80s, who are, if they're still going, they're doing nostalgia. Gary really, and even on the interview that I did with him, he really emphasizes the importance of him being a current artist and releasing current music. He hates nostalgia. He's got this huge back catalogue. Now, he has to incorporate older songs into his set lists, but in that way, they bring them up to date with the newer stuff. I guess what I'm trying to say is Gary Numan has always been and is still very, very forward-thinking. His shows are very, very energetic. I've reviewed a lot of them on this channel, and he is an incredible frontman. I mean, you'll be shocked when you learn his age and you actually see the way he moves and everything. He's got an incredible amount of energy. So this set list, I'm busy reading off Setlist FM, setlist.fm. Full disclaimer, I did not see this on the BBC. It was recorded and it was played on the iPlayer. I do not live in the UK anymore, so I was not able to see that. I have, however, seen a lot of video footage on YouTube, and some of you have sent me some of the footage, so I cannot give a sort of honest review on the whole set list, but that's not the idea of this video. It really is just to talk about the fact that this is quite an historic moment. And not too long ago, Gary Numan did his 40-year anniversary at Wembley. I, of course, was also at that historic gig, and it was a great emotional event to share. Glad I was there, and you can find that video in my catalogue. Okay, so let's run through the set list, looking at what he did here. 12 tracks. I'll just read them first. Halo, The Chosen, Metal, Me, that's M.E, Pure, Cars, Haunted, Down in the Park, Nothing's What It Seems, and that's Raven Numan cover with Raven Numan. My Name is Ruin, A Prayer for the Unborn, and Our Friends Electric. Now, I just recently saw an interview with 5 News in the UK with Gary Numan, and it was about a 5-minute interview, and he did say, which makes a lot of sense, is that, when you're playing at festivals, I know this on first-hand experience myself, is you don't actually have time for a sound check. You have what you just get what they call a line check, which is they just check that everything's coming through, but you don't actually have time for a proper sound check. So it's quite nerve-wracking when you're going on in front of an audience that is not your audience and you haven't had time to sound check. But certainly from what I've seen from the footage and from the feedback, hey man, this is a guy at the top of his game. He's always been exceptionally good at live shows, and I've always been flying the flag for Numan and, the performances, the songs, the shows and everything. Coming back to set lists, when you perform at festivals, you're not performing to your audience. You're performing to, I guess, what you can call a cold audience. Remember that Gary Numan's music is very, I think what some would deem it very odd. It's not radio music. It's not sort of commercial chart music. So a lot of people would deem this music as weird and odd and gothic or whatever. So putting Gary Numan on a stage like this is great, because when you play festivals, once again, you're playing to a different audience. You're not playing to your own audience. Now that makes it challenging, because your own audience, it's like, they're more forgiving if you make mistakes and things like that. This is what you could call, I guess, a cold audience. And if I can just segue into the experience I have had, recently with joining the band Mesh. Mark and Rich from Mesh have been going for many, many years, way over 30 years. And I know the challenge of when you're playing at a festival, you don't get to play any of your sort of interesting songs, or not that your hits are not interesting, but you're not getting to play the songs that, like B-sides and things like that. You do have to sort of really focus on your sort of hits and your I guess your sort of mainstream stuff. And that brings me into this set list. Halo being the first track, obviously that from the Jagged album. Great song. Track 2, The Chosen, that's obviously from the latest album. Obviously, he will do older songs, but he will, through the production of the backing tracks and stuff, they will bring them, up to date and in line with the newer stuff, because Gary is going for a sort of, a particular type of sound. And talking about sound, when he sings, there is no doubt, whether you like him or not, what you cannot doubt is the fact that he is so individual. There is no doubt that when Gary Numan starts singing, or one of his tracks start, it's just you cannot mistake it for anything else but Numan. Then on to Metal. Dun, 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 dun. Great. And then M.E., very sort of melodic. Pure. That was the feature track from the album Pure, from the 2000 Pure. I like the Pure track. Was it strong enough to put on a set list of only 12 songs? I don't know, but, it is a great track. Once again, it's difficult because when you've only got 12 songs, especially when you've had a career of way more than 40 years and you're now trying to give people a kind of like an idea of what you're all about, I suppose, I'm not saying Pure was a bad idea, but could he have put a stronger song in there? Leave your comments in the description below. Pure, and then followed by Cars. I think we know Gary's feelings on Cars. all the singing happens in the first couple of minutes, and then it's just big instrumental at the end where he's got nothing to do. But hey, man, most people who know Gary Numan will think of Cars, so he had to do it. Haunted, great track once again from the Jagged album, which I have on vinyl here. Down in the Park, of course, a Numan classic. I want to do an analysis video on that song sometime. I have released a video of me kind of playing it, just kind of free-flowing it, but I want to do a more in-depth video on that song. Really, really unusual and beautiful. A masterpiece, really. Track 9, Nothing's What It Seems, with daughter Raven coming onto stage, and she's recently been signed to a record label, and her career is looking very, very promising at the moment. Track 10, My Name is Ruin, and there, for this track, his other daughter, his middle daughter, Persia, she comes on to sing this with him, and I mentioned this to Gary in the interview I did with him a few years ago. I loved when he did the music video for My Name is Ruin, and it was a great track, by the way, great track. And when his daughter Persia, when she came to the stage, she was so tall. And then, as the tours progressed, she'd get taller and taller and taller. Now, with the heels on, she's taller than Gary. And, just seeing her now, she's a grown woman. And this is what I loved about him. I mentioned this to him as well. What I love about him is when he's on the stage and his daughters come on, he kind of loses it a little bit in the sense that all that kind of persona, he kind of just flobs, and he's like, he loves his daughters, and you could see it. And as a father, that's such a lovely thing to see. So I know what that feeling is like. So full respect to him. Track 11, A Prayer for the Unborn. Now this has always been a highlight at all Gary Numan shows. I haven't seen this rendition. Now, the only criticisms I had of it last time is one of the versions that was released of the A Prayer for the Unborn, or what I'm trying to say rather, is A Prayer for the Unborn was a great track from the Pure album. But this version, which he has done live for many, many years, is the Andy Gray mix. Now, I love that mix. It's great, but I just feel that they needed to move away from it because they've overused it now. Within that, I don't know if that was the version they used for this set list, because as I say, once again, guys, I have not seen the show, all of it. I've seen a lot of the footage on YouTube. What I saw, it was very, very good. So once again, this is not the purpose of this video. And then finally, Our Friends Electric, and that's always like a big anthemic thing. Whoa, whoa. And once again, when you're playing to your audience, your own audience, like the Numanoids as he calls them, or as they call themselves. He didn't come up with the term Numanoids. I don't know who came up with the term Numanoids, but if you know, please leave your comments in the description below. When you're playing to your audience, like the Numanoids, in this case, the song Friends Electric, there are all these kind of predictable moments when Gary goes, now I hate to ask, and then you put the microphone out and everyone will go, but our friends electric. Now, those are those sort of inside moments you have with your own fans, which are very sort of personal to you and your fans. Of course, that would not happen here because you're playing to a festival. Now, the scary thing about playing at a music festival is the fact that you're going on in front of a cold audience, people who don't know you, have never heard of you. So you've got to kind of try and win them over somehow. It's very different when you're playing to your own audience, a home audience, your fans, because, there's like a family feeling in that. But the positive thing about a festival is that you get to release your music beyond your echo chamber or your fan base. I'm certain that following the reviews I've seen online and in the media following Gary Numan's Glastonbury debut performance, I'm convinced that he has picked up a lot of new fans on the way. I did put a posting up on my Facebook page the other day, and just a question, so what did we think of Glastonbury, and without sort of trying to probe too much, but the name Gary Numan came up sort of big time, along with others, but I think Gary Numan really did cement his name, and once again, great, rightfully so. This is a man who's done his time. He's been kicked down, but you can't keep a good man down. Cream always floats to the top, and certainly from what I saw, the fragments and the clips and stuff, I was very, very surprised. But I want to hear from you now. If you can leave your comments in the description below. Were you there? Did you watch it? If you're watching this, you probably did watch it. I do always enjoy reading the comments and interacting with you, and your comments help me decide on which content you like and which direction to go in. So please feel free to speak your mind and give your opinion. And with that, keep watching. I hope you have subscribed. A lot to come here. I'll just say, just watch the space. Lots of love, and see you in the next video. Adios.